Okay, so today we are going to be trying out the Metcon 5s. I honestly wasn't planning on getting these. This video is going to be coming from someone that has typically not been a fan of Metcons. So I ended up buying these because on my story, people were like, nah, you should totally get them and tell us what you think. So this is going to be my first impressions of the Metcon 5. Have not worked out in these yet, so this will be my first workout in these shoes. Let's do it. Okay, so we are done with the workout now, and I wanted to talk about these. So first impressions, again, I want to make it very clear. This is a first impressions video. This is not the full review. I do not have enough information to give a full review, but I do want to just kind of put my feelings out there for those of you guys that are like, you know, you're ready to buy a shoe, and you just want to know if these shoes suck or they don't suck. So the first thing I want to say is they do not suck. I will say that just from the first impressions, just from the first workout, I honestly think these are probably going to be my favorite Metcons ever. I've always been someone that wasn't the biggest fan of Metcons. I always felt like they were just too hard, not comfortable at all. Running in them was like the worst thing ever. So I can say that everything that I didn't like about the Metcons has been improved upon, and I think that that's a really good thing. So these are, I think, going to be my favorite Metcons. So first and foremost, I want to bring this up. This is actually a size 9.5. Normally I wear a size 9, but I was watching my friend Joel, or as many reviews as possible, and he said, make sure you check and try the shoes on because they do run a little bit smaller than the other Metcons. So I went and tried them on, and a 9.5 fit me pretty well. My brother tried them on. He normally wears a 9.5, and he said they fit fine for him as well. So I would say if you can, try and make sure you're able to try on the shoes before you buy them. But if you can't, I would say a good measure is if you have a wider foot, maybe go up a half size. My brother has a more regular, not wide or anything like that foot, and he said the 9.5 was fine. So I just want to make that very clear. If you have a wide foot, make sure you try these on before you buy them. So I want to talk about why I think these are my favorite Metcons and the reason for that. So I think the reason that I like these more than any other Metcon is the new drop-in midsole that they have. So normally Metcons, the drop-in midsole was pretty much one density throughout the whole thing. It was pretty dense. It was very good for lifting in, but running in or doing other plyometric movements, for some people they loved them. For other people like me, I wasn't the biggest fan. This year they have a dual density. So as you can see, this part, the forefoot area, is very, very flexible, and it's a lot less dense, and then the right under your heel, it's a lot more dense. So I think that this change right here is by far the reason these shoes are as good as they are. Now, if I were to nitpick a little bit, the one thing that I do have an issue with this about is that it's such a stark difference, and it doesn't gradually fade into a less dense material. So you can definitely feel it. Like when you're walking, you can feel that the heel is a lot more stable and the forefoot is a lot more squishy, and it's a lot more, movable. So you can, like, it's just such a stark drop off that you do notice it, and I noticed it when I was walking. Another thing that I'm not the biggest fan about these is running in them was pretty good. I wouldn't choose to run in these shoes. I still think that the Nano 9s, for me personally, the way that I run are a little bit better, but compared to other Metcons, much better. The one thing when you are running, I think that they're not as loud as other Metcons, but when you're walking, I noticed this when I was walking to my car this morning, they're very loud. Like, it sounded like I was wearing heels. So there's a couple things that are better, a couple things that maybe people might not like very much. Now, the stability and lifting in these is just as good as it's always been. I don't mind the difference in density in the drop-in midsole. Some people might mind it because you definitely can feel your toes like squishing down a little bit more than other Metcons, other iterations. I don't really mind that much. It doesn't bother me. I didn't notice any real huge difference. If you're wearing these shoes to max out on your squats, I think that they're not going to be perform as well as maybe a Metcon 4s wore, just because of that little bit of squishiness in the front of the foot. But again, I think all in all, as an all-around training shoe, this is going to be a better shoe than the Metcon 4, only by a little bit. It's nothing super crazy, but for me, the things they changed were things that really bothered me, and I think I'm going to be a huge fan of this. As I've already said, the flexibility and like running and stuff like that in these shoes is, I think, a lot better. Now, it doesn't mean that they're amazing running shoes. I wouldn't really recommend going on long runs. I went on 1 mile, and that's about as far as I think I'd want to run in these shoes. Again, it's much better than before. You're not getting as much flapping and slapping on the ground. I remember before when I'd be running with people in my gym and they were wearing Metcons, you could hear them from like 3 miles behind you because of how loud the shoes were. So I think they did a better job with that. They're not as annoying to wear. I never understood how people were able to wear these shoes outside of the gym and just walk around, but now this year I can say I honestly think that just walking around wearing a shoe, I would rather wear these than the Nano 9s. I think that they're that comfortable, and they really did a good job. Another thing I definitely wanted to mention is these little Hyperlift inserts that come with all of the Metcon 5s. So this is very similar to a Versalift, which I've shown on the channel. Basically, it goes under your insert, and then it adds a little bit of, you know, you have a little bit more of an offset, so it's supposed to help with any squatting movement. And for me, you guys know I've been a fan of Versalifts for a very, very long time. They help me tremendously. They're probably the most important thing in my gym bag. I will bring this with me if I ever travel. This is one of the most important things. So the fact that Nike has these in their shoes, I think that's really cool. You just put it right under the insert and then you're good to go. I'm kind of bummed out that they felt like they needed to make this because, you know, Versalifts is already a company that's making them. But again, Nike, you know, they want to crush any competition. But I can say if you are somebody that buys the Metcon 5s and you really like these and maybe you want to have a better version, the Versalifts are going to be a better version. The material that they use on these, they're all right, but I can tell that like there's already this little hole. Like this hole was here as I bought the shoe, right? So the material that they're using is not going to be as durable as a Versalifts, but I used it in the workout today and they felt fine. So I think that's really cool if you're somebody that has limited ankle range of motion like I do. But if you're someone that doesn't struggle with that, you might not even care about these, you might toss them. But if you're somebody that's kind of worried about that and you were wondering how they work great. They're a little bit less, so the Versalifts have more of a drop. So this I think is 8 millimeters, and I think this is probably closer to 10 or 12. So you can kind of see the difference there. It's a little bit thinner than the Versalift is, but I think it's cool that they're adding those into the shoes. But all in all, if you're considering getting the shoes, I would say go for it. If you've been a fan of the 4s, I think you'll like the 5s. Again, this is coming from someone that didn't like the 4s. So if you're someone that didn't like the 4s for the same reasons I did, I think you'll really like the 5s. I'm stoked that I actually like these shoes because I've always felt the Metcons looked a lot better than the Nanos. These ones, I actually think the 4s look a little bit better than these. Personal preference, but they don't look terrible. So I'm excited to actually be able to use these and work out them and enjoy it. And yeah, I'll be able to give you a full review in a month or two. That's just my opinion. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.